Good evening. Welcome to WSBI, your resource for success podcast program, where you get to meet inspiring women-owned businesses from across the country. And now, for your host, Kimberly McLemore.
All right, good evening and welcome to WSBI, your resource for success podcast program, where you get to meet inspiring women-owned businesses from across the country. I am your host, Kimberly McLemore, but tonight we have a special edition of the show. With us we have Tristan Wright, founder of Evolve to Grow. Tristan Wright is the Chief Business Sherpa based in Melbourne, Australia, with a background in leadership coaching and applied business. Unlike many coaches and consultants, however, Tristan actually built a business from an ad hoc startup in his 3 square meter kitchen to a 7-figure operation with staff and suppliers around the globe. In doing so, Tristan acquired firsthand experience in everything from product design and procurement to team management, financial reporting, vendor negotiations, and social media marketing. He survived the personal aspects of entrepreneurship as well. Tristan let the allure of success and fear of failure consume every waking minute and learned the hard lessons seldom taught by anyone. All of which to say, he can offer you more than just buzzwords and vague advice. Tristan will show you how to grow your business while reducing your workload and keep you focused and accountable along the way. So without further ado, welcome to my platform, Tristan Wright. Hey, Tristan, how are you?
I'm really good. Thank you very much for having me.
Well, it's my pleasure, and I'm excited because you're coming from Australia.
Yes. I'm on the other side of the world, and I'm about 15 hours or something in the future as well.
I know. Isn't that crazy? It's like, oh, this is like I said, we talked a little bit earlier, and I'm like, wow, these are the things that I love, is being able to talk to people from all over the world so that people can get a great perspective of what it's like doing business no matter where you're from, right? So
that's it. It's at the end of the day, the economy or the world has changed in the last few years, and we can talk to anyone on wherever they are in the world and help each other out, no matter the time zone or the country that we're in.
Absolutely. And so tonight we have some great golden nuggets that you're going to be sharing with my listeners. So I'm excited about that. But before we dive into any more about business, talking about business and your business itself, why don't you give the listeners just a little bit more information about who you are personally?
Who I am personally, that's a really good question. We could be talking for hours and hours. So
got some juicy stuff for me there, Tristan.
It really depends on how big my ego is, doesn't it?
Uh-huh.
Look, at the end of the day, I've got a partner and I'm a father to a 5-month-old child, and being able to spend time with my partner and 5-month-old is what makes me happy. So, and then I use business as a tool for that, and I'm just so passionate about working with other business owners to be able to deliver what they want, but also to be able to spend time with their friends and family. That I just love doing that. So yeah, I could go into a whole heap more detail. Where do we want to start?
Well, hey, we can dive into some more of that as we continue to have our conversation here. Because, interviewing is not just about answering questions. It's all about having a great conversation and learning from those experiences that we have so that we can teach people what they don't have to do, right?
Exactly. There's why reinvent the wheel when other people have already been through situations that you might be about to go through? It's best. I figure it's best to learn from others' mistakes.
Exactly. But it's funny how, we have these conversations, we still provide resources, but it's amazing how people still try to reinvent the wheel and they still think they know more than you. Like, it's just like being a child looking at an adult saying like, how did you get to this point? Because how do you know about what I'm doing? You've never been a child before, right?
That's it. That's it. And you look at the people that, in inverted commas, are successful. They're typically the best learners because they listen and watch how other people do things and what's worked and what hasn't worked. So, right, and that's why they're able to get ahead because they don't have that ego.
Exactly. So, let's talk more about how you really got into this. What really pushed you into starting a business? Was there somebody who inspired you? Were you inspired by something or an event that pushed you into saying, I got to show people how to be more successful?
Yeah, so it sort of came off my previous business, which was a sportswear business, and the highs and lows that I went through in that business. I made heaps and heaps of money. I had a 7-figure business, and then I lost lots and lots of money. Like I was at one stage, I was about 200 odd grand in debt because of mistakes that I made. So. Which is not a fun place to be in. So when you're a small business owner, you go through lots of highs and lots of lows. You have lots of successes and lots of pain points. And I was going through all of that, and I wasn't even 30 at the time. Like I set up this business like two or 3 years out of university. And when you're in your 20s, you've got to you have initial success, so you end up having a big ego. So you're like, I don't need help from others, and I didn't think I needed help from others. But in all reality, I did, because I was trying to reinvent the wheel myself, and not realizing that I was making mistakes that others had already made, and I could have learned from them. So I went through all of this journey, the highs and the lows of business, and like I was almost bankrupted, and my marriage ended partially because of business, partially because of other things. But I got out of that business just before I turned 30. So, geez, that's about five years ago now. I sold that business. But after selling that business, I was like, I could take some time out, but I realized that so many other people will be going through situations that I've been through, and why it just makes sense to be able to share my story and share my lessons with others when I've always going back to when I was a child, and I've always loved helping others, and I've always loved leading. Why don't I use the lessons that I've learned and help others in business, so they don't have to go through what I went through, or they can learn from the positives that I experienced.
Right. But the thing that really stood out, what you just said to me, is how when you're 20, you believed you could do anything. You didn't need anybody's help. And we're finding more and more young folks who are in their 20s, these millennials, all these people are saying, I don't want to go to school. I don't want to do this. I'm just going to get out here. I can handle this. I can have my own business, do better. And nobody really talks about some of the failures, because they are partially failures because you're still learning. But at the same time, you're taking what you learn, and then, like you said, you turn it around and make it something positive. But I liked how you admitted that, because I have not heard too many of those stories where these young 20-year-olds are saying, well, I made some horrible mistakes because I didn't listen. I didn't try to collaborate and learn from those who have already done it. So I wouldn't have made those mistakes. So like my success wouldn't have been so dramatic, and having to learn those lessons. But I like that you are sharing that part of your story.
Yeah, one has to own their past, and the more transparent and the more vulnerable you are, the more likely you are to be content with who you are as a human being, and the more likely you are to be successful in life and in business.
Absolutely. So in the field of business that you were previously, what made you decide to choose that field? Like I said, we already know that you had the tragedy and, so to speak, and now, you said, I've got another opportunity I can make and teach people what I've learned. So the field of business you were in, if you can talk a little bit about that, what was that?
Yeah. So it was a sportswear, so custom cycling clothing, custom running, custom triathlon clothing. So any team lycra. So in the States, you're running teams at college, or your corporate teams wearing custom clothing. I was designing and selling that. So I got into that through organising uniforms for a team that I was involved in, and I saw a gap in the market. So my background is design and engineering, and I thought, I'm going to give this a shot, because I've always loved designing, and I've always loved creating things. So saw that gap in the market, and one thing led to another, and it turned into a successful business.
Wow. That's something unique and different to do. So, like you said, it obviously didn't work out, and then you sold it, and you actually was somewhat successful with that. But, it's amazing how you talk about, too, how it affects your family. It affects you as an individual. And on the personal side, let the listeners understand what it means to balance having a business as well as having a personal life.
So I'm going to ask a question. Do we live to work or do we work to live?
Excellent. I'm not going to answer. I'm going to let you give people the answer. Because, it's funny because we all go through that process of trying to understand what does it really mean. And I think the biggest thing that I hear, and even me being in a business world, is that we think because we work for ourselves that it's not work. In reality, it is work. You're working because the difference is the mindset has to be different because you're not getting a regular paycheck on a regular basis. Your responsibilities don't change. So it's like, wait a minute, how did I get into this?
That's it. Like at the end of the day, we've got to love what we do for work, and we have to be passionate about it. But it is actually a tool for us to be able to enjoy our lives. So if we're not enjoying the work we do, and B, it's not allowing us to enjoy the time that we have outside of work, or give us time outside of work, what are we doing this for?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And what gave you the strength to rebuild the business after almost literally going bankrupt?
Because if I didn't, I would be here bum and be depressed the rest of my life. And I know I'm worth more than that. So I want something out of life. And if I relied on others for the rest of my life, I wasn't going to achieve what I wanted. So quite literally, if it was going to be, it had to be me. And if I wanted to achieve, I had to pull my finger out, so to speak.
Right. Right. Exactly. And I love that. And really what you're talking about is passion. The passion to want to get up and move and breathe again, and knowing that you're happier. Because a lot of times, when we say that, I've done this, I don't want to do this anymore, why am I doing this? And you want to go back to that work environment, you lose something. There's something about taking that and saying, I got to go back to this 9 to 5. I got to go back to this world of not being able to really think and be appreciated in a way that you really want to be appreciated. Exactly. So that's really what it's about, is true passion. And you had true passion no matter how far you came down. You're like, I'm not leaving this. I'm not giving it up. I'm just going to redirect myself in a way that's going to be much more beneficial for not just me, but for everybody. So now you've made this step. You have this amazing company. I want to know about, you talk about it in your profile about you just don't give buzzwords, you give vague advice. It's more than just buzzwords and vague advice. So talk about some of that advice that you do. What are the steps that you take when you're working with somebody in business?
So for me, the reason I put that in there is I've got a pet hate for people wanting to coach or consult to others who don't necessarily have the experience. They've done a very short course, but they don't have real world experience, so to speak. So they're and I'm sure you've probably come across this. There's a lot of, in the coaching and consulting industry, there's a lot of wannabe-preneurs. So they can be very good at sales and sales tactics, but once they've converted someone, they don't necessarily have the ability to help that person ongoing. So for me, what I've gone and done is actually gone and reverse engineered how my previous business worked and how this business is successful, and looked at other businesses and created my own frameworks for how to actually make progress, but also areas to focus on within a business. So unless there's frameworks and structures and direct next steps, everything is just going to be buzzwords and sales and marketing.
Absolutely. In the world we live in today, because you can instantly, oh, I have a business. And like you said, we have more consultants and coaches running around here than I could have possibly ever imagined in this lifetime, because everybody thinks now that you're a coach. Everybody thinks that, like you said, you're a consultant, and because they've started something, but really, like you said, they don't have the meat and potatoes. They haven't had the experience. They haven't had the opportunity to realize what it truly means to be in business from the beginning to the middle to the end. And some of those tragedies that we go through, and they don't always have to be tragedies, but the lessons that we learn being in business are always the best resources of consulting you could possibly imagine. You can obviously go to school and get as many degrees as you want to get, but when you come out here in the real world, sometimes those books don't give you life.
That's it. And look, I don't have a problem with people doing that, but they've just got to be transparent and say, hey, look, what I'm teaching you is from what I've learned, not from what I've applied. So there's so many people that have learned how to be a copywriter and a storyteller, and they think they can go to that next level. So
right. Because we live in a world too of instant gratification, right? I mean,
correct.
And that's part of it, because like I say, you could open up a business overnight and then, you do one great thing and then all of a sudden everybody thinks they're a star. But the key is, the reality of that is, are you going to stay there? How are you going to stay at that level? What is it going to take? What are you doing that caused you to be this big overnight star? And as we can see, majority of the time, most people don't last. They're one hit wonder, and then next thing you know, they faded out because they really don't understand business, or they really didn't have so much the structure or the things needed in order for them to stay successful in the business. So
that's it.
Right. So when you're working with people, I guess kind of give me a step-by-step process. So your business is it more one-on-one, or is it in working with the corporate industry, or do you do a little bit of both, or how does that work for you?
So the stuff that I absolutely love is one-on-one, because I have a deeper impact with that business. So typically the businesses I work with as sub 20 staff members in the B2B service space. So I love doing the one-on-one stuff with the business owner, but in reality, that's not scalable. So I would not be practicing what I preached if I didn't do group coaching as well. So to be able to scale and to be able to remove myself from the day-to-day grind of the business, I need to have a group platform as well as a one-on-one platform. So you've got to balance your passion and what you're good at with what's also going to allow you to grow your business as well. And that's not just for my business, but it's for other businesses too.
So in your business, what is your favorite part that you enjoy teaching and chopping it up about with people when you're, because you're passionate about a business, period? So what is that favorite part to you?
You know what? When someone realizes that they can make a couple of little tweaks in their business, that just little tiny tweaks that are going to save them time and increase their revenue. So because they've been doing something the same way for an extended period of time, they don't know that they can change things. And when someone comes and looks in the business from an outsider's perspective and says, hey, you can change the way you do this and you're going to save 5 hours a week, or change this and you're going to make an extra $2,000 a month, to see that the client's reaction, that's just amazing. So
right, because I'm sure most people come to you and they're thinking the world's going to end, right? It's like everything's failing and falling apart. What am I going to do? And then, like, so when you tell them, it's like, oh, it's just do this or do that. You're going to be perfectly fine, right? Yeah, that does bring a good feeling. I think anything we do as consultants or coaches or any business that you do when you're dealing with people, our whole purpose of being involved in business is to make lives easier. And when you can see that and you can feel it and you know you've done the right thing, then now you always sit back and think, wow, this is the reason why I'm in business today.
That's it. Well, the mission of my business is to give clients the gift of time and freedom starting right now. It's as simple as that. So, yeah, we want time and freedom and not have things holding us back and holding us down.
Right. Yeah, because I honestly believe you don't need to feel like you've got to work yourself to death, 40, 60, 70, 80 hours a day or a week or whatever in order to make it. And I do believe that balance is important. And I think that's reason why people are so stressed out today, because they're so busy trying to make it so quickly without understanding that there's time for everything, and time management is important.
Yes.
And I believe that things happen for a reason the way that they do.
Yes, exactly. Like we don't, this is probably a really important thing. So many people live on other people's goal plans, whether it's their parents or their friends' goal plans. We typically don't live on our own goal plan. And this is what causes us a lot of stress and heartache, because we're trying to achieve things that is not what we want to achieve.
Exactly. And then I think too, even when you're in business and you start out and you're thinking one way, I guess, look, let me ask you this question. How many times have people come to you and said, well, this is what my business is supposed to be, but I'm finding that I'm having this problem? How many times do you find people have to change or readjust their business? I love this question because I know you're going to give me a great answer, because some people believe when they walk through the door, like, this is it. I'm not changing anything. It's never going to be this, and then all of a sudden they realize, something needs to change.
I just asked the question, what do you want to achieve out of this business? So by asking what they want to achieve, and it's about simplifying. So what is the absolute end goal of your business? Is it to make more money? Is it to serve all of these people? What are you wanting to achieve out of this, and how do you want it to benefit you? And then we just look at it simply, and like, why? Then I say, why is your business so complex? You don't need to do all of these things to be able to achieve that.
Amen. And that's a valuable lesson. And I ask that because I've gone through that more than one occasion. Like, so you open your mind and your passion is like, oh, I'm going to do this, and this. And then I realize it's like, yeah, this isn't working.
One
Go ahead.
One thing at a time. One thing at a time, basically. So let's just keep it simple. Become the king of one thing or the queen of one thing, and then move on to the next.
Exactly. And I think a big part of it too, in business, is that, because there's so many people being able to come out quickly, and do a business, it's more of the competition thing. How am I going to stand out better than the next person, right? But not realizing that it's not about the how many things you have, it's the quality and the value that you bring.
Yeah, that's it. Quality over quantity any day of the week.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a few more questions for you. So if you had one person who came up to you today, just out of nowhere, didn't really know much about, but just had a conversation and says, hey, I want to be in business, what advice would you give them?
I wouldn't necessarily give them advice. I'd give them a few questions to go away and think about. And I'd be saying to them,
yep, I think that we are on the stuck point here. We'll see if we can get him back here in a second. 1 second here. Oh, we're getting to reconnecting here. So remember, we are talking to Tristan from all the way from Australia, Melbourne, Australia. So we're going to see if we can get him back on the horn, because we are having a little bit of connection.
I'm back.
There we go. Don't worry. I held it down while you were gone, Tristan. I held it down.
Yeah, my internet just decided to drop out, so lucky I'm back.
Yeah, it's okay. It happens. Look, you're all the way across the world somewhere, so I'm blessed that we have made it this far on our internet connection, right?
Yeah. So what was the last thing you heard from me? So,
we were talking about, you were saying, hey, I wouldn't give advice. I would ask questions. I was talking about somebody came up and talked to you and said, hey, I want to go into business. And I said, what advice would you give? And you're like, nope, I would ask questions. And what would those questions be?
Yeah. Question one is, why do you want to be in business? What is the benefit of this business going to be to you? And what is the benefit of the business going to be to your end client?
Mm-hmm. And that's okay. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say there's those three main points is, and then I'd be asking them to go away and think about it and then come back to me. And once they've come back with some answers, then I would talk about giving advice.
Mm-hmm. And that's actually a very good question. And it's funny because when you ask that, just the number one question is, why do you want a business? It's amazing how many people can't really tell you why. You know, and it beyond I want to make money. But I think, and I have found and have learned, and I'm sure many other people have learned, that when you come into the world of business and it's just about making money and you forgot what your purpose is, you're never going to fail. Thank you. Exactly. You are going to fail. It has to be the other way around. And, you know, people have to understand that your purpose and your passion is what makes you successful. It's not about how many dollars that you can get. All that will eventually come. But
correct. And you've got to think about your customer first. So you obviously think about yourself and what your purpose is, but your customer and why they're going to be interacting with you. So you need to think about the customer experience significantly and what benefit you're going to be giving them.
Absolutely. And in my book, customer service is number one. It's the number one focus you have to have. And I think that we have absolutely lost a lot of how important customer service is.
I'm actually, I'm flying to Sydney in a couple of days' time to give a speech around customer experience and the importance of customer experience. So we, as people, we forget about it. We end up becoming about ourselves, but we've got to give to others first.
Absolutely. Love it. Those are great. Well, I can still consider great advice on the show for my listeners, you know, because this show is all about sharing resources and giving that great information, as I called earlier, golden nuggets, because it's something that, you know, we're not reinventing the wheel. We're just reminding people this is the reality of life and business in the direction that you need to go. So I have a couple more questions for you. So basically, well, I guess one good question, because we are kind of getting close to the end of the show. Before I ask you my last question for the evening, tell the customers how they can get a hold of you and, you know, where you're at on social media and so forth.
The simplest way to get hold of me, I've got my website, evolvetogro.com.au, but if you just search for me on LinkedIn, Tristan Wright, or Instagram or Facebook, really, I believe I'm pretty easy to find on the social channels. So I'd be interested to hear from people if they think I am or not, but I do my best to be easy to find online. So Tristan Wright, Evolve to Grow.
All right. Awesome. But I do have one last question. Obviously, like I said, we're coming to the end of the show. So what would you be your last words for the end of the show tonight?
Good question. Think what is possible and make it your reality.
Love it. All right. Well, Tristan, I truly appreciate you coming on my show this evening, because I know that it is definitely daytime in your area. And, you know, we've been finagling trying to get this going for quite some time now. So we're finally here. I appreciate you so much. And again, I thank you. Do you have anything else you'd like to say before we shut down for the night?
I'm all good. Thank you very much for having me. And hopefully everyone's found some benefit in this conversation.
All right, you guys heard it. You heard it live from my special guest, Tristan Wright, who is the founder and owner of Evolve to Grow. And of course, for me here, we are here every Thursday evening at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on iHeartRadio, Spotify, and about 9 other new platforms. So there's no way you can't find us. And if you've missed this live show, go back and listen to the recording. I guarantee you will enjoy it, and you will learn a whole lot about what's going on over there in Melbourne, Australia, with my special guest, Tristan. He is phenomenal, and I hope I have the opportunity to speak with him again. But until next time, you all have a wonderful evening, and good night.
Good night, everyone. We will be back next Thursday evening at 7 p.m. Follow us on Spreaker, www.spreaker.com/user/WSBI. View our new WSBI website anytime at www.wsbillc.com and on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Instagram.